Hi, it's Dave Diegelman with Equity Real Estate here in Southern Utah. We are looking at our numbers for October 2023. So we will look at the summary of numbers from September. And let's dive in and take a look. So we're going to do something a little bit different this time because I'm actually going to compare 2022 to 2023 in a couple of different areas because there's a lot of news out on the market right now. In fact, let's drive into the news that just happened a couple of days ago. Pending sales declined August 2023, the lowest since April 2020. So pending sales, again, are those sales. Those are those homes that are under contract. We don't know how much they're under contract for, but this is just judging the number of how many homes are under contract. So that does translate to sold sales within a month or two, depending on what part of the country we're in. So the news is out on this, and this is on a nationwide basis. It fell 18.7% from a year ago. And so a lot of times this kind of creates widespread panic. So for home buyers, a lot of times they'll want to sit on the bench for a little while and they think that housing prices might be coming down. And for home sellers, they might be more antsy about getting their home on the market or antsy if their house is on the market, and it hasn't sold yet. But here's the reality. We do participate in trends of the United States, but the St. George marketplace, or Washington County, I should say, really is kind of unique because so many of our homes are sold to people who are retiring from out of area and or second homes, vacation homes for someone. And to a degree, we also have investors that invest in vacation properties, rental properties and such. So we kind of fit a different bill than some of the other parts in the U.S. Now, one of the things we're going to look at is population forecast. So this is from Wall Street, 247wallstreet.com. And according to the factors that they factor things on, the St. George area, the metro area, so that would be Washington County, is projected to be the second fastest growth area within the next 40 years. So probably a lot less than that as far as years are concerned, but we're always in the top 4 or 5 counties in the U.S. for growth. Why is that? Well, most of you who live here know that because our weather is usually just gorgeous, and there's so many nice things we have here with the Gulf and the reservoirs and hiking and Zion National Park. Just the beauty here is unsurpassed for desert scenery. But let's look at numbers and where we're at for 2023. So right now, the number of listings that have sold, and you can see this trending from October, November, December. We always have a lull kind of through this area. February, it starts going up. March, it shoots up pretty high. And then it dropped. This was unusual, but if you remember the weather in March, April, which this comes from actually February, March weather, because 30 days before a property is sold, it's been on the market and it's gone under contract. So if our average marketing time is 60 days, let's look at this little peak right here in March. It actually went on in January a lot of times. So that's kind of an interesting, fact about how this works. So even though the numbers kind of go flat for the winter months, we do always have an increase in the spring and early summer market. So we peaked out at 497 sales in May 2023. Whereas last year, if we look at our peak, it was also May, but it was 543 sales. So not that far off in the number of sales that we have. And you can see last year it kind of declined. This here was one of the craziest markets I've ever seen. And I keep on saying we're in a fairly stable marketplace, but as far as number of listings that sell, we're right there as far as the numbers from last year. We're down by about 10 to 15% overall, and we'll look at that in a minute. Now, if I add in the active listings and the new listings coming on the market here, and active listings, you can see that there's a fair amount of inventory to what is being sold down here. And the same thing happened with last year. This happens every year. But last year, you can see it kind of all merged into this place right here. And then the active listings started growing in the summer months and in the fall months. So a little bit different than that crazy market that we were in right here. But anyway, let's go to this year's listing prices. So the sold median list price, this just tells where homes are being sold. It doesn't say that one home last year sold at a different price than this year. And as I've mentioned before in my newsletters, we're down about 10% from our peak of 2022 prices. It's slowly growing back up, and so that's kind of where it's been. Overall, the listing prices of the sold is going to be right now at $489,000. If we look at last year, it was at $485,000. So it's pretty like for like. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to take a look at the rest of the numbers and it'll kind of unfold what that means. Now, absorption rate is how many months of inventory we have versus how many sales we have. So right now we're at 4.2 months, 4.26 months. And last year in September, we were at 3.65 months. So very similar. And going over to our price volume, overall price volume, the active list volume has remained pretty steady. And then the sold sale volume, I want to show you that. It kind of reflects where our other sold sales have been in volume, but 200 million is where we're at for the month of September, whereas last year we were at 234 million. So there's definitely been a drop in the price, the number of the units of sales, and also the overall market volume of sales. So let's go down to these numbers of the different categories. These are the sold listings and the pending listings. So pending listings are the ones that are under contract. We don't know how much they're under contract for. We only know how much they were listed for. Sold listings are in the ground. They sold. So you can see that we don't have a lot of positive territory, but where we do have positive territory this year over last year is the 250 to 349. Now, we don't have a whole lot of inventory in that range, but a lot of manufactured homes and homes on rented lots fall into this range right there. So that's where I've seen a lot of our increases. The homes that used to be, let's say 150 to 200,000 have gone to the 2 to 250 and 250 to 300,000 mark. Condos also start falling into place here. So definitely what we're seeing a trend of is people are looking for more affordable homes. So with interest rates being in the mid 7% as I speak right now, that's a big deal because of affordability. However, you have to remember that upwards of 30 to 40% of our sales come from cash from selling another home, and typically in another marketplace. We'll see how this plays out. Right now, what I'm seeing is a very stable marketplace with a lot more creative financing things on offers. A lot of times buyers are asking for points to be buy down, closing costs to be covered, and those types of things. If we look at the category of 400 to 450, we do see a decline in that, but we just don't have as many homes in that price range, in my opinion, as we did last year. The 450 to 499, we have seen a decline in that, and again, we don't have as many homes there. What's interesting here is the 5 to 750, which is our highest volume area, is identically the same this year from last year as far as units sold. Now, year to date, we exceeded that in 2022. Year to date, we have 1015, where it was at 1253. So that's down about 19%. The 750 to a million, which has been very, very strong. It's still very strong, but the numbers are dropping. It's down 28% year to date from last year. Doesn't worry me. It just shows me that we have more price conscious buyers in these areas right here. And the 1 to 2 million mark, it's pretty stable, even though it's down 21%. The numbers are small enough to where that's fairly stable. And then from 2 million to 5 million plus, we just don't have enough numbers to really judge anything there. We'll always have a market for properties that are in the 2 million plus range, but they are few and far between. So you can see year to date, 25 this year, 45 last year, 13 in the 3 million to 5 million mark, and 15 from the year before. So again, these numbers just aren't really significant. And there's a lot of bargains. I've kind of told you in the 1 million to 2 million range, even in the 750 to a million range, there's some good bargains that are coming on the market, especially with the longer days on the market. And days on the market I didn't cover, but let's look at that. We've been hovering around 70 days and we dropped below that. We're at about 64 right now. Pretty typical for the market that we're in. We do expect the days on the market to probably increase as we go forward the next couple of months, but not necessarily. A lot of times October, November, and December have a decrease or an increase on the days on the market. Let's go ahead and look at the water usage, because one thing that's going to drive potentially our market into potentially higher prices in the near future is our water usage. As you know, Utah is planning on building a pipeline. It is going to the Colorado River, and we plan on getting a lot of water from that. However, the Colorado River is one of the more contested, if not the most contested body of water in the U.S. Literally, it runs dry. Hasn't run into the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of Baja for many years, except when they have released it specifically to do so. So what does that mean for us? Well, even though we're entitled to it by a 100-year-old treaty, if there is not much water to get, then there's not much water to take, is really my take on it. Now, this year we've had an incredibly wet year. I just drove through the Virgin Gorge yesterday, and I have never seen it in October so green with so many flowers, and just it's unbelievable. The hills around us are all green right now. There's wildflowers all over the place with a second bloom. It's incredible, but we're also in a historic drought. So we have to look at that as if that historical drought is going to continue, and what are we going to do about it? Well, once a year we get together. The Water Board comes to the Association of Realtors down here, and the Washington Board of Realtors has a luncheon with the Water Board, and they talk to us about projections and such. And several years ago, they said, we're going to have to do something pretty drastic. It's going to take 4 to 6 years of conservation to kind of curtail our growth where we're going. But then we need to have a big influx like the pipeline, and that's an 8 to 10 years out project. Well, one of the areas that we can see the writing on the wall is our use per capita. So our use per capita over here is amongst the highest per person in the country. So here are the Southwest states. Several of the Southwest states that use Colorado River. These three are. U.S. average is over here. And so over here in Las Vegas, you can see they're one of the lowest in the country. So we're at 306. Las Vegas is at 115. So that tells me that we do have a fair amount of water that's out there from conservation. So what does that mean to you as a homeowner? Well, if you own a home in the greater St. George area, you can look up some of the benefits of going to xeriscaping and some of the incentives for doing so, because there are some incentives for doing so. You can Google it and find that out. But I suspect that we're going to have to come down into this level a lot closer to Las Vegas with our water usage. And otherwise, within probably 4 to 6 years, we are going to potentially have building permits halted because there won't be enough water to issue a building permit, and that's ultimately where it really gets seen. So right now we're not in danger of that, and hopefully with the new things that we are doing, I know they're looking at new drilling for aquifers that are deeper, and there's all sorts of real positive things that are going on with that. But the reality is we're going to be facing this, and in real estate, when you stop issuing permits on new construction, then housing market gets tight and prices go up. So we'll see what happens. The Fed just raised their rate again. And so interest rates on mortgages have gone up again. We're in the mid sevens right now. You can look at my report for what the exact numbers show. And oil prices just shot up. When oil prices shoot up, everything goes up. Construction supplies, food, everything, because everything gets transported. So those things are going to contribute to, the lack of being able to spend for a worker on housing. So I assume that banks are going to tighten up a little bit about their criteria because money is going to be tight for a little while. But on the flip side, I think curbing inflation is a good thing. And I think that we are going to see over the next 6 months that the Feds feel that inflation has been curbed and should start opening up, I hope. For real estate, it's going to be great. But if you are looking at a loan right now that's in the mid sevens and you're scratching your head going, well, when's it going to go down to 3 or 4%? Probably historically never. The median price for a mortgage over the last 50 years is just around 8%. So, don't look for that to happen, for the mortgage rates to go down, but I do see that they could go down into the 5 and 6% again. So, what about buying a house right now? Is it a good time to buy or should you wait? Well, every single year I have clients asking me this, and if I were to show you the graphs of housing costs in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, every single year I had clients on the sidelines that said, I'm just going to wait because we feel like we're at the peak of housing. Well, in my personal opinion, I think we've seen the peak of housing prices. I think we've been very stable and growing. That's what our trends show, is that we're slightly growing in appreciation right now. So sitting on the sidelines, if that means renting, that means you're paying someone else's mortgage. And while that might be the only option for you, rental prices keep on going up and up and up. It's on average over $1 a square foot for a house right now in the greater St. George area. A mortgage broker friend of mine has always said, date the rate, but marry the house. Because there's always refinancing that you can do down the road for low cost or no cost refinancing to get the rate down when the rates do go down. And we do anticipate that we're going to need the rates to go down for the economy. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this market summary. If you do have any questions on anything in real estate, give me a call. If you're a buyer that's sitting on the sidelines, but you have a lot of money in an IRA account, talk to me about that, because there are ways that you can utilize that for purchasing a home. And it could be very beneficial for you to use that as opposed to paying a higher interest rate on that portion of the money that you use. Talk to your accountant about this because it is an accounting question. I'm not licensed as an accountant. I am celebrating my 21st year in this crazy, crazy world of real estate. I'm a second generation realtor, so I grew up in the real estate marketplace. My dad was a broker. He went on to be an author and a lecturer about real estate and tax shelter. So I've had this in my ears my entire life. I would love to help you with your particular situation. Give me a call, 435-703-4041. Thanks, and God bless you.